One of the most frustrating things in all of League of Legends is losing a game due to the fact that your teammates feed. One of the questions that we get most often here at GameLeap is, how am I supposed to carry when my teammates are feeding so hard? While it can be very frustrating, there are certain things that you can be doing in order to either solo carry the game or help your teammates out. I have played through every elo countless times in my years of playing League, and let me tell you, I've had some of the worst teams imaginable, yet still won with them. I've even won 4v5s. So I wanted to share my knowledge with you and show you how to carry from top lane when the rest of your team is feeding. When played properly, top lane can be one of the highest impact roles in the entire game. If you are interested in mastering top lane and want some of the best resources around, make sure to check out our website, GameLeap.com. There we have hundreds of videos all done by challenger players sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. Make sure to check out our course on the top lane essentials. Use the link in the description for a special offer today. Now the simplest way to carry while your team is feeding is just to split push. If you're able to have an advantage in the side lane, then split pushing will make it so that one other player on the enemy team has to come answer your pressure. This means that your team is going to be in a 4v3 while you are going to be in a 1v2. As a result, the enemy team will have a lot less kill pressure on your teammates, making it so that they should stop feeding. If you are able to easily handle the 1v2, then this should be your go-to method to put pressure on the map. If you're able to split push on the opposite side of the map to wherever the most important objective is, it gives your team a chance at contesting that objective. If you are able to truly master split pushing, then you will be able to draw 3 or even 4 people to you at one time. This is one of my favorite tactics in the game to utilize because it really allows me to push my limits. And on top of that, it should be a tool that every top laner has in their arsenal. However, since split pushing is typically more of a mid to late game tactic, I want to go over some of the things that you can do earlier on into the game to help your team out. One of the best things that you can do for your team if you are winning your lane and they are getting smashed is to end your laning phase. This means shoving as hard as possible and taking the enemy tower. Once you break the enemy's tower, then you'll have an opportunity to roam bot lane. You can look to gank the enemy bot lane, set up a dive, take dragon, or even just get plating. All of these things are good, but the most important thing here is that your bot lane will stop dying if you are there. The thing to keep in mind here is that you can't commit too much time bot lane, otherwise you're going to lose too many minions on your tower. If it appears as though the enemy jungle is the issue, then one thing you can do is roam into the enemy jungle. This will allow you to take the enemy jungler's camps if he's not there and put him behind in EXP. If the enemy jungle is there, then you can just stay there, pressuring him, stopping him from doing his camps, and make it so that one other person has to come. Remember, if you're wanting to solo carry games, you need as much income as possible, both gold and EXP. Taking jungle camps, especially enemy jungle camps, is a fantastic way to develop a gold and EXP lead on the enemy top and jungle. Just make sure you're looking at the map when you're doing this, because if 3 people start collapsing on you while you're doing the jungle camp, you're not going to have cooldowns in order to deal with them. As soon as you see people start to move towards you, you need to get off of the camp and go back to your lane. Remember, Krugs are never worth dying for, and there will always be another opportunity to roam into the enemy jungle, especially if you're shoving into the tower. Now, in order to truly be able to perform these tips, you need to be dominating your lane. This is why I highly recommend picking carry champions like Irelia, Akali, Renekton, Riven, Jax, and the such. Champions like these are going to have a lot easier time solo carrying the game in comparison to champions like Maokai and Malphite. While it is still by all means possible to carry with a tank, it is a lot harder and requires a lot more work. This is because tanks generally have less at their disposal than carries, and most of the time they're just CC bots. However, if you are playing a tank, there are a few things that you just do ages better than any carry. One of the key things as a tank that you can do is you can teleport bot lane to turn a fight. This is really good in situations when your bot lane is just being camped by the enemy jungler. The only thing you need in order to pull a TP gank off is a deep ward in the enemy lane. Once that happens, wait for the enemy bot lane to overcommit, and then you can TP. This is why it is so important on tanks to save your TP. Your first TP will most likely be used to go back to the tower, and that's fine, but after that you want to be saving TP for dragon fights and bot lane ganks. One good teleport gank from the top laner can completely turn around a feeding bot lane. You want to be giving as much gold to the bot lane as possible here. Remember, if you're a tank, you don't use economy as well as a bot laner will. In these instances, it's very important for you to remember that as a tank, you're not very reliant on gold and you're more likely reliant on EXP. On the other hand, ADC is very reliant on gold, as they're not going to be able to deal damage if they don't have items. Keep this in mind when you are ganking, and try not to last hit kills, and don't tax plating gold. I know if you're a top laner that plays a lot of carries, you're used to taking all of the gold for yourself, as top lane builds are very expensive on carry champions. And it's fine to take all of the gold if you're playing a carry champion like Irelia, for example. But if you're playing Malphite, make sure all of the gold goes to the ADC. Your TP gank does nothing for your bot lane if you last hit all of the kills and tax the plating gold. This is because each assist is only going to be worth 75 gold and each plate is only going to be worth 60. This is why you want to let the ADC last hit the kill for that 300 gold and get solo plating gold for 180 for each plate. If you're able to do this, then your TP gank will net your ADC 3 times as much gold than if you take everything. Now that's a huge deal, and it's something that I think a lot of tank players overlook a lot of the time if they are using their TP to gank. I hear a lot of diamond top laners specifically say that they don't TP gank because every time they do TP gank, their bot lane still loses anyways. They'll say something along the lines of, well, I don't TP gank because if I do, then my bot lane's still gonna lose and then I lose my lane. However, anytime I ask them to show me an example of a clip of this happening, the big mistake that I see them making is they are taxing all of the gold. Of course your TP gank isn't going to be effective if you just walk through and take all the gold away from the ADC. That's the equivalent of the jungler coming top, taking the kill, and then taking your wave. As a top laner, it's very frustrating, so you have to keep in mind how it feels for your ADC. One of the other things that tanks do better than carries in the early to mid game is roaming. As a tank, oftentimes when you hit level 6, your lockdown potential is going to be insane. A lot of the times though, your jungler won't gank your lane every time your ultimate is up. If this is the case, then one thing you can do on tanks is every time your ult is up, just roam mid lane. If you're playing something like Malphite or Maokai, then pretty much every time you roam, you're going to get something. Either a flash, a kill, a summoner spell, or an ult. This will relieve so much pressure on your mid laner. Remember, solo kills on a tank are just not as important as solo kills on a carry. Sometimes just because you can kill your lane as Malphite, it doesn't mean you always should go for that. Oftentimes, it's better to just stay even in your lane and extend your lead through mid lane. This actually serves 2 purposes. And the first is that it makes it so that your mid laner has a lead, so they will have more items and therefore deal more damage. But the second thing, which is pretty heavily overlooked, is it denies the enemy mid laner from getting a lot of gold and EXP. This means that you as the frontline in turn will not need as many items in order to efficiently tank them. On the other hand, if you only extend your lead through your own lane, then yeah, you're going to have a lot of items, but your team is going to be lacking in items. This means that even if you can tank the enemy team, your team isn't going to be able to kill their team, so it just won't matter. This is why playing the map as a tank top laner is so important. Every time that you have a playmaking ability, look to use it on one of your other players. Mid lane, jungle, or bot, it doesn't matter where. If none of these plays look readily available, then you should look to make a play on your own lane. Remember, top lanes are the dads of League of Legends, and as a result, you need to put your kids first. Now, I want to give you one last tip that you can do both on carry top laners and on tank top laners. Now, this is a final resort and should only be used as such. If you've done everything in your power tower, you're split pushing, you're 1v2ing, you're extending your lead through other lanes, and your team is still losing, and the enemy team gets Baron, for example, there is one thing that you can do to stall out the Baron. What this thing is cutting the wave before it gets to the enemy team. This is very similar to Singed proxying a wave, but you can do it on any champion. Generally, the premise behind this is you want to hide from the enemy team while the enemy's wave is walking down the lane towards your towers. Then, when the enemy team is preoccupied with sieging your tower, you can cut the enemy wave, kill it, and then look for a flank on the enemy team. This is one of the best ways to handle Baron and stall out for your team to get back into the game. It's okay if you're not able to fight them. They can't take towers without minions. That does not work anymore, and it hasn't for years. This, paired with proper side wave management, means that you pretty much never need to worry about Baron. Now, there is a counter to cutting the wave, and that's simply walking with your minions to the tower. This will give them Baron buff and make it pretty much impossible for you to kill those minions quickly. However, this is not something that people start doing until Grandmaster and even Challenger Elos. I don't even see it in Master and Diamond. Remember, this is your last ditch effort, and as such it should only be used if everything else fails. If you're able to defend a Baron siege without using this tactic, then you definitely should, because if it goes wrong and you get chased down and die, then you're definitely going to lose a lot more than if you had just stayed under the tower and conceded maybe one tower. That's about all that I have for you for today's video on what to do when your lanes feed as a top laner. Top lane is a very unique role, as every single one of these things are pretty unique to the top lane, so while you may not have as many options as the top laner, they're definitely still there and they're completely unique to you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, as we post new content every day done by Challenger players. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our website, GameLeap.com. There we have hundreds of videos all done by Challenger players, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We have courses both on the 5 fundamental roles as well as champion specific courses, so if that's something that interests you, make sure to check it out. Make sure to use the link in the description for a special offer today. As always, I hope you learned something valuable, and I will see you in the next one.